All right, once again, I went to Stock Snap, and we're going to look for a background photo to use in your practice photo composite. I'm going to type in landscape. If you want to type in, I don't know, forest or mountains, whatever you want to do for your background. All right, I'm going to browse for a landscape that's going to give me some depth and some surface area for me to add some animals. I'm going to choose this one right here. All right, so you're going to be choosing your own landscape image, a different one than me. Yours needs to look different than mine, different from everybody else in class. I'm going to click on that red free download button. If there's no red free download, then it's not free. Choose a different photo. All right, for me, mine pops up and allows me to rename the file. So I am going to rename mine landscape. Yours might be only downloading to the lower left-hand corner of your browser. If that happens, just drag and drop it to your desktop so that you can browse for it when we go to open it in Photoshop. All right, next, so you have a landscape. Now I want you to search for an animal that you are going to add to your landscape. I'm going to search for, I don't know, let's see if they have a good photo of a deer. All right, remember if it's got a star in the corner, that is not a free image, so I can't choose any of those. All right, and I'm looking for an image that shows me the whole animal and hopefully not too complex of a background. I want to select this animal out of its background to add to my photo composite. So for instance, I'm definitely not going to choose this one. It's a brown deer next to a brown tree. That will be hard to select out of its background. All right, I might try either this one or this one, or maybe even the baby deer. All right, so you're getting a landscape of your choice and an animal of your choice, not the same as mine though, not the same as anybody else in class. And then after that, you're going to browse for a lightning photograph. You can always get more than one animal, more than one lightning photograph. I think I'm going to get 2 lightning photographs just to play around with them later. Notice I like to rename those photos so that I can find them easily when I go to browse for them. All right, so from our stock photo site, I have downloaded a landscape, an animal, and I went ahead and got 2 photos of lightning just to have a backup in case I don't like the first one. Next, we're going to open up Photoshop and we're going to open up a new document. All right, our new document, it's a practice file, so we're going to do 10 inches for the width, and 8 inches for the height. My landscape photo is landscape orientation, meaning it's long lengthwise. So I'm going to keep that landscape. If you chose a photograph that is taller, portrait orientation, then you should choose the portrait orientation artboard. For this assignment, it's a practice assignment, so we're going to stick with 150 pixels per inch. And we're going to name this Your Last Name Composite Practice. All right, so go ahead and open up your own file and match my dimensions. Well, like I said, though, if you chose the landscape photo that is portrait orientation, it's tall, then choose the portrait orientation icon. If you chose a landscape that's wide, like me, then choose the landscape orientation icon. Okay, I'll hit create, and here's our new blank document. All right, next up is to open your landscape photo that you just downloaded. Now remember, we're going to open it as its own document so that we maintain its high resolution. So let's go to File, Open, and browse for your photo. Mine is on my desktop and I named it Landscape, so I'll go ahead and browse for that alphabetically. There it is. And I'll click Open. All right, it's going to open as its own document. We just downloaded this from a high resolution stock photo site, so it is going to be a very high resolution. Let's go ahead and check that resolution of the photo you just downloaded. I'm going to go to Image, Image Size. Remember, get into the habit of doing this to double check your dimensions. All right, this photo that I downloaded is 45 inches by 34 inches. That is a really big photo. Now notice the resolution only says 72, and we know that that's a low resolution. But remember that the inches, the dimensions are so big for this file that this is still a very high resolution image. The thing is that when I drag and drop this over to the new document I made for my practice photo composite, it's going to be much bigger because remember, our new document is only 8 inches by 10 inches. When I drag this over, I'm going to have to resize. All right, I'm going to click OK. And I like to get the tab of my photo that I want to drag over. I'm going to drag that over so I can see it floating in front of my new document. I'm going to get the Move tool, top tool on the left. The Move tool moves stuff. All right, I'm going to click it, hold it, drag it, and drop it onto my new document. Now I no longer need the original, so I'm going to X out of this because I don't need that. Now that photo is huge. It's bigger in resolution, which means I can't even see the whole image. I'm going to go to Window Navigator so that I can zoom out of my image easily. Window Navigator. Now here's my Navigator window. And right here, I can grab this little triangle and I can pull to the left to zoom way out and see more of my gray scratch board. Now, I'm going to go to Edit Free Transform to shrink this photo down. Your keyboard shortcut is Control T. So Edit Free Transform or Control T. Now when I get my bounding box, that's telling me, okay, there's the rest of the photo that I can't even see. All right, so I'm going to shrink it down. Depending on the proportions of your original photograph, you might not be able to get the whole photograph. So for instance, I'm going to cut off just a little bit of it. That's okay. I'm going to lose part of it because I want to keep my little stream here. But part of it's going to get cut off. I'm going to click the check or the tick to make that transformation. All right, notice in my layers palette, when I dragged that photo over, it made a brand new layer and called it layer 1. I'm going to rename that, I don't know, hills. All right, so that I stay organized. Okay, next I can zoom back in. So here's my navigator. I'm going to pull that triangle a little bit to the right and zoom back in. Next, it's time for me to go get my animal. I chose the deer. You go get the animal you chose. File open. I'm going to browse my desktop for the deer that I downloaded. Hopefully. Okay, and I'm going to open it as its own document. Now it's time for me to select the deer out of this background. All right, I am not going to bring the whole picture over to my practice photo montage. That is too confusing to try to remove it from its background in the background I want. I'm going to remove it from this background first and then drag and drop it over. So depending on your animal, now's the time to decide which selection tool is going to be best for you. Do you want to try the quick select? Do you want to try the magnetic lasso? All right, I'm going to try the quick select and see if that works first. If it doesn't work, I might have to try the magnetic lasso. Okay, quick select, 2 tools down on the right column. And remember, quick select, you get to paint your selection. You need to stay inside the outline of your animal. If you go outside the outline of your animal, you will select the background. You also want to make sure that your brush tip is small. Now, right now, even though my brush tip is at 20 pixels, it's pretty small because the resolution of my stock photo of the deer is very big. All right, zooming in also helps to make sure that you don't select pixels you don't want. All right, so I'm going to zoom in, get that quick select, and slowly paint over the deer, trying to get my marching ants only over the deer. And remember, if your quick select goes outside the outline of your animal, you don't have to start over. Just hold Alt on your keyboard. It will switch to the subtract from selection. You'll see a little subtract sign, minus sign in the cursor. And you can paint over the area you don't want. You'll subtract from the selection. Then let go of Alt and continue adding to the selection. All right, so my quick select, if you can see right here, it has selected some of the background outside of this leg and in between this leg and in between these legs. I don't want that. So I'm going to hold Alt on my keyboard and I'm going to paint the background area. I'm subtracting from the selection to get that out of my marching ants. I'm going to shrink my brush tip even smaller. Here's your shortcut to shrink your brush tip. Left bracket on your keyboard. Left bracket reduces your brush tip. Right bracket makes it bigger. All right, so remember, zooming in really helps. Take your time. adding and subtracting from selection to make sure you only get the animal, none of the background. Double check your marching ants. Your selection is only around the animal, not around any negative space. All right, once you're happy with your selection, you're going to get your move tool, top tool on the left. Remember, the move tool moves your selections. I'm going to get my move tool, click it, drag it, drop it onto my other document. All right, notice this guy is giant because it was higher resolution. That's okay. I'm going to rename that layer here, and I'm going to shrink it down. Control T for free transform or edit free transform. All right, this deer is so big, I'm going to zoom out with that navigator palette. And I can tell right away I got a little bit of grass pixels left over on their legs. So at this point, I'm going to zoom in and clean that up. Now I could redo my selection, or I could just get my eraser tool and clean that up. So I'm going to grab my eraser. Eraser needs a brush tip. I'm going to drop down the brush menu where I'm circling, and I'm going to choose a brush tip. I'm going to choose the hard round. I want a hard edge on my eraser, and I want the eraser tip to be a little smaller. Okay, and I'm going to clean that up. Double check when you're in your eraser that your other settings are correct. Your opacity is at 100%. That means that it's not transparent, it's fully opaque. All right, so notice I've zoomed into the whole animal, the whole deer. I'm cleaning up any jagged pixels that may have gotten picked up or any background pixels that may have gotten picked up. And I've zoomed in so that I can see this. Zoom in and take a look at the edges all over your animal. All right, I'm going to zoom out by double clicking on the hand tool in the tool palette. All right, and there's my landscape and my deer so far. All right, at this point, I want another deer. All right, so I'm going to duplicate my deer. Here's your shortcut. I've got the move tool selected. I'm going to hover on the deer. I'm going to hold Alt on the keyboard, click and drag. There's my other deer. Notice it made a brand new copy in the layers palette. All right, I'm going to do that again. All right, so I've got my move tool. I'm going to hover on my animal, in this case the deer, hold Option on the keyboard, click and drag, and you have your duplicate animal. In my layers palette, it made a new copy and it calls it deer copy. All right, I want this deer to be facing the other direction. I'm going to flip it, edit, transform, flip horizontal. All right, so I flipped it and now I would like to resize it. Once again, that was edit, transform, flip horizontal to flip it. All right, and now I want to resize it. So I'm going to go to free transform or Control T. And I want this one to be smaller, and I'm going to put it higher up on the picture plane so that it looks like it's farther away. And maybe this one will even be standing in the river. All right, so my first deer is larger and lower on the picture plane, making it appear closer to us. My duplicated deer, I flipped it and shrunk it and placed it higher on the picture plane towards the horizon line to make it look like it's farther away, creating the illusion of depth and space. All right, next, let's play around with editing the hue of one of your animals. All right, so on my deer copy, it's on a new layer. So on that layer, I'm on the deer copy in the layers palette. It's light gray. I know that layer's active. I'm going to go to Image, Adjustments, Hue, Saturation. Image, Adjustments, Hue, Saturation. Okay, my hue saturation box is going to pop up, and I can drag that hue slider and adjust the color of my deer. Now, what you're going to notice is that my deer is getting sort of just a glow, like a green glow or an orange glow or purple glow. It's not changing that much in color. Now, the reason why is because the deer is dominantly white. If your object or animal is dominantly a light value, you're not going to see a significant hue change. What you can do is click this box right here where it says colorize. And if you click colorize, then you'll see more of a change and more of a overall blanket change, meaning it's all over green change or all over orange change. All right, so I shifted the hue. Now it's got sort of a purple overlay to it.